The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make a lot of noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Nephew. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat a moment. There will be it's time for pickup. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's good to have you along for the ride on this Friday, October 13th, Saturday, October 14th. If you're on the East Coast or across the pond, hope you had a great day and night as we are live right here in the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia as we are here for you 7 days a week. We welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Like our music, get your horns up for Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy and Sons of Apollo. Bumblefoot is the official sound of Spaced Out Radio. Now, we're all over social media. You can follow me on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and subscribe to our iTunes channel. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, if you want to take part in this show, you got to do me a favor. You got to sign into one of our chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, be like Graviton Fish. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I'll get to your questions, comments, and snark in there as well. Now, for just $5 a month, you can become a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Pick yourself up a t-shirt, posters, stickers. Read up on the Encounter online. You can read up on my latest blog, fill out an SOR Sightlines report, or watch some great video footage from Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV. Is space truly the final frontier for mankind? Seriously, think about it. Because we haven't even discovered all of Earth just yet, but the attraction to the stars and the secrets they, along with the moon and the planets, keep are unfathomable. For millennia, man has stood, looked up, and stared at the stars, wondering what in heaven's name is truly out there. Fast forward to the last 70 years, and see what life has brought. Airplanes, rockets, spaceships. Every day is moving faster and faster. Yet for some, those who still gaze up to the twinkling lights in the night sky, the mystery of what's up there is still a true fascination. Many believe we've already been visited by aliens. I'm one of them. Many believe we've already been well beyond the moon landings of the 1970s. And many believe, like our guest tonight, Will Ferrar, that we have far more knowledge of what's happening up in the sky than what's been publicly admitted to. Have we been to Mars? Do we have bases on the moon or elsewhere? Will has been researching this topic for over a decade and makes his Spaced Out Radio debut tonight. Will Ferrar, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Glad to be here tonight. It's the first time I know we've talked about coming on, and excited to finally get it on here. And today is my 37th birthday, so I'm spending it with you my first couple hours. I'm excited, and the guests, it's amazing, all the chat rooms and everything you guys have going on. So I'm pumped to talk space. Mars is one of my places that I've really been fascinated with. So I'm going to get you want to start.
I'm going to get you. First thing I'm going to start with is I'm going to get you to keep your head straight because your phone keeps doing some clicking thing, and I don't know what's up. Because you know what, we talked earlier, and it was fine. Everything was good. The minute we start going into the whole, Mars aspect, we start, getting all this clicking sound going on. Maybe that's the aliens trying to tell us, don't talk about Mars or our bases on the moons. I don't know. But, Will, we do thank you for coming on the show tonight because we're going to get into a lot here. And what I would like to do, and by the way, happy birthday on behalf of all of us and Spaced Out Radio. We hope that your 37th birthday goes exactly the way you want it. Make sure you get a good lobster dinner or something like that, my friend. And what got you into all of this?
All right. Let's see. Has my clicking stopped? Is that any better? I picked up the other headset. Can you hear me better now?
We're still getting a little bit of clicking going on, my friend.
It's really strange. Every time it seems like I go on a radio show, this stuff starts to happen. Let me see if I can try just to switch one more here.
Okay.
How about now? Any better now?
I think we're sounding a little bit better. Let's give this a try.
All right, we'll give it a try. But what happened about 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer, I've always been fascinated with space. I went to a school when I was in 3rd grade after the Challenger disaster. A lot of people probably remember that, probably alive for it during the time. I was in, I think, 2nd grade at that time, and the next year I lived outside of D.C. in Montgomery County,
Right.
and they had built a school for her and named it, I guess it was one of the schools, and named it S. Krista McAuliffe Elementary School. So that was my first, taste of space, other than seeing that launch take place itself and the disaster, because they were putting it all over. Every school had it up at that time. This was like one of the live feeds. Since she was a teacher, S. Krista McAuliffe, they were really trying to get the students to come in. So that was like one of the horrible tragedies for America and for the space system. And we actually saw it live as kids. So my first entry to it was a disaster. Later on, as I got older, the fascination between paranormal, whether it would be not just space but here on Earth as well. You had mentioned earlier in your intro about the wonders of the world just here on Earth, and the things that we're still finding, especially with all of the great tools we have, like we found here for Mars. And about 10 years ago, I was listening to a radio station. I came across Richard C. Hoagland on there, and he was talking about moon bases and pyramids on Mars, and it just fascinated me. I was driving back from Florida late night, trying to stay awake, flipping through the dials. Had already gone through my my iPod, which could only hold about 10 songs at that time. Now you can put your whole music collection on them. And that's when my fascination began. I came home, and immediately the internet was just to the point where NASA was putting out images online. They were no longer selling them. You used to have to buy the images, and they'd send you, a huge. You would get basically a huge FedEx or UPS package full of them. And that's really, that radio show that night really got me fascinated, pretty much to almost an obsession. It's not my day job is a computer guy. I'm actually an IT director for a behavioral health company out of basically nationwide here in America. You guys are up there in Canada, which we have a lot of good friends up there. But yeah, that's kind of what brought me into it, just hearing Richard's, he can bring you in a way that fascinates you. So after that, I got home that weekend and started looking through pictures and finding where they are, and it's kind of a mess out there. You really got to know where to go, and back then, and really hunt these pictures down. They weren't just as nicely, neatly. You could search Google back then, and Yahoo, I think, were the two that you could search. And even AOL, I was finding things through there. But that's really how I got started into it. I started with the moon. There was a guy named J.P. Skipper, too. He had a really great website. I think his website's down now, but you can still find it on the archive.org. There's an internet archive out there that was sponsored by, I think, one of the governments or some of the schools. And you can still find some of his information out there, and a lot of his discoveries are still out there. So that's really how I got into it. Started going through the websites, seeing more and more. And once you start pulling these images up and finding them online, it's almost hard not to find things in them. It's really, especially now, since there's so much out there from all the different missions, from starting back in the 1970s to now. We've got images from the surface, orbital images. We've got satellites up there that you can even, if you've found something you want, or something you want to look into. Keith Laney, a friend of mine, he requests pictures all the time through the High-Rise team. So there's a lot of channels to get it, and then that's pretty much how I got started into it, and started realizing that there was more to the, more than meets the eye, and more than that we were being told by the space agencies of the world, especially here at NASA, which seems, has the pretty much reigning globe when it comes to it.
So when you decided to start looking into this a little bit more and a little bit heavily into what was going on up above, was it more curiosity at the fact, or was it out of pure knowledge that you wanted to research these topics?
Yeah, well, I've been having paranormal events my whole life. Since I was a young child, I was able to astral travel and come out of my body. And back then, it was kind of a scary thing when it was going on. So at that time in my life, I was out, looking for answers, not only to what was happening to me personally, but what is actually out there. I think I was in my mid-20s. I think a lot of us at that age really have either contemplated or start to contemplate that stuff. You're done your partying aspects. If you enjoyed that, you're coming along to where why that question, why am I here? What's this? And if you go, there's so much out there. The information is just so mind-boggling. The disinformation as well. It really takes a lot to even just come up with theories of your own. So really, it's just the draw. My draw to it was the curiosity. Never did I expect back then to be putting together websites or YouTube channels or anything of the sorts. It wasn't thought of. It was more of a, hey, look at the collection I have, show my friend, or at that time show my father, who's passed since then, which I finally did make a believer. He wasn't a believer at first. He would see just rocks, and say, oh, that stuff's just rocks. But that's really, it was more of, became more of an obsession to me, as well as here on Earth, too, because there's so much, like I said, the stuff here on Earth is what really you can compare things to. And when I started seeing those pictures, the curiosity would just keep on, building up inside me. So it really did become an obsession, as I would sit at night sometimes for 2 or 3 hours and get lost in 1 or 2 pictures, just looking around to basically run into looking at photo albums all night. Instead of looking at my family and friends on Facebook, I would be looking at pictures of Mars and things like that, and the moon, of course. But Mars was one that we've had a lot of landers go to, a lot of orbiting. It was the one that really, even in folklore here, Mars, the god of war, how it relates here to us as humans. And I've always felt this connection towards it. Like I said, even as a young child, when we would hear stories and things about Mars, it would always be that that red planet up there that we could see with our naked eyes. You could go out on a nice clear night, even outside of D.C. where I lived at the time, and see Mars on certain times, especially when it was close or when it's in your sky. And say, that's the red planet. My parents would take me outside, and so I had that internal part of me that was fascinated by it.
So when you started getting that fascination and started looking into all of the aspects that were surrounding the potential conspiracies of what's happening on Mars, the history of it, what's happening on the moon since the Apollo landing, so on and so forth, did you start thinking that there was such a thing like the secret space program? Had you ever heard of that before? What are your thoughts on that?
I hadn't. I never heard anything about it until we had a subscriber. Eventually, what happened is my curiosity got so intense. I set up a website about it. Since I'm in IT, it was really easy to set up a website, and I thought, I'll make a YouTube channel. And I made a YouTube channel, and my first video was about a pyramid I thought I had found in Antarctica. So I came back to that. I created the What's Up in the Sky 37 account and totally forgot. So I came back about probably 6 months later, and realized that there was maybe 500,000 hits on this one video, and I only had two videos on the account. And at that point, I was like, this is where I can start jumping off into space and going through each of these finds, because at this time I was looking for things, but I was also going through what J.P. Skipper had found, what Keith had found, what Richard had found. The names could just go on and on. Brett, my buddies, I've got a lot of friends in a thing we call UFO, which is the United Family of Anomaly Hunters, that we've put together recently.
Hey, Will, that clicking sound is knocking you out again, pretty severe here. What I want to try and do, Will, here is I want to try and give you a quick call right back, so that way we can maybe we can just adjust the line here, okay?
I tell you what, that's good. You've got my other number too, right? We could probably try that as well.
All right, I just gotta bring it up here. Where do I got you here? Yeah, because we definitely want to hear this information. This is good stuff right here. We just got to get it all cleared out here. So, otherwise, yeah, we'll make the change on the fly here. We can do that. We're rebels that way.
Were you able to find the other number?
Let me just see here. Yeah, if Facebook would stop jumping on me, that would be great. Yes, I got it right here. So I'm going to call you back on the other phone number here, and we're going to see if we can get that. Yeah.
Give us a good college try. We get this. Hopefully.
Absolutely. we got to get this, man. We got to get this. Give me 2 seconds, and I'm going to call you right back.
Go for it.
All right. So I apologize for the phone snafu. We're going to try another phone number here because we definitely want to get this interview in. You're going to hear a little bit of a ringtone here momentarily because that's the way we do things around here. This is live radio, man. This is the way things are done. I wonder how many rings it'll take.
Oh, how about now?
That's much better. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now I've got you in my headset. Is that better?
Oh, you're sounding crisp and clear. This is what we're going by, just crisp and clear. Ooh, feels so good and smells so good, and we're listening really good right now. Let's do this. All right. So the question was, before you broke up, did you believe in any type of secret space program before you got involved with all of this type of research?
I had never heard anything about a secret space program until one of my subscribers sent me one of those cryptic messages that said, "Check out Solar Warden." That was the message to me. And of course, I went to Google and plugged it in and started looking into some of it. And it's really a fascinating subject, especially you would think that with how far we've come in 60 years, 30, 70 years, like you had mentioned, from just having everything from the technology is just amazing. The fact that we can do this and it can be sent across the world is amazing. So I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't heard anything. Really, I went in as an open-minded individual, ready to take on any information possible. The opening sentence to all my YouTube video starts off with, I see what I see and you see what you see. That's basically just saying, when we're looking at these pictures and we're going over things, I've had a different life, I've seen different things, I've traveled different places than you have. You might see something totally different, but let's talk about it and see if we can come to an agreement. But as for that, I want to absolutely believe that we've come, DARPA and our, the defense research, for people not sure that is, that's where a lot of our money goes in the black budget to make these, secret weapon systems, robotics, things like that. I would like to think that we're a lot further ahead than we are back then. But yeah, that was the first I had heard of it, was through a subscriber, just kind of one of those cryptic messages.
So as you started to go down this rabbit hole regarding the whole potential of a secret space program and the history and anomalies that you were able to start to see in your own research, what questions were going through your own personal mind at that point?
Ooh, that's a good one. Is what I'm looking at real? Am I looking at real footage that came back Am I looking at obfuscated footage? When I say footage, pictures, basically. We don't get too many videos back from Mars or from the moon, but it's basically still shots. Has this stuff been edited? I've always been a very skeptical person, but very hopeful, and a lot of people go into their research trying to prove something. I try not to do that, especially because there's so much in there. Like you said, it's a rabbit hole. And everybody has a different story to throw at you or a different theory, and there's so much to take in that I enjoyed that, especially that first 2 years of making the videos and bringing people in and meeting new people that had different information. Some people would come in and tell me, hey, this is in Greenland, or these rovers aren't on, Spirit rover, Opportunity rover, Curiosity rover, they're not on Mars, they're out there in the desert somewhere. And at some point I had to make that internal decision that I'm either going to believe that we went there and that the people who worked on these did complete the work. And I have friends who actually worked for various software companies that help make software for the Curiosity rover. I've had friends that work on satellites, so that the whole trusting part was what I wanted to, that was really what was holding me up. What should I trust? What shouldn't I trust? On one hand, we've got NASA giving us pictures, but then on the second hand, we've got what looked to be blurred out, spots that were manipulated on purpose. So your mind starts to go back and forth. Who do you believe? And that's same thing with the Solar Warden or the secret space program. Are we out there in fleets? They had, I think it was Gary McKinnon, the guy who was in trouble for hacking into some of the NASA computers. I believe he did it through an old 56 baud modem at the time, and found what he said to be off-site, off-Earth representatives and ships that weren't any here on Earth. So do we have that type of stuff up there? And it is a rabbit hole because there's so much information there. I literally think that so much of it is put there as disinformation to kind of throw you down the wrong trap. You throw you down the wrong hole for a while, make you chase this before you find anything. But the anomalies themselves and the things we're getting back, if they actually were coming from where they're saying, they're absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Was there people that you looked up to, that you really trusted their research in all of this, that led you down this path? And when you studied their work, find that some of it was more puzzling than realistic to what you were starting to learn?
Really, a lot of it at first was J.P. Skipper. He had put together a really good website that had sourced all the material, which is key because there's so many YouTube videos out there, just websites in general, that will show you these amazing pictures and tell you that they're from the moon or from Mars, but they wouldn't source the actual material. So he actually sourced every picture that I would run into. So I started my videos by looking at some of his research and looking at some of Richard Hoagland's research. I'm actually working but there's about 7 of us working to put together a book that should be out hopefully sometime around Christmas of this year. It's been one of those projects when you've got so many people involved, it keeps building and building. So I was able to meet some of these people as I, came into the field. Jose Escamilla, he was one of the guys that actually I was looking into he had all sorts of great research, especially with his movie Celestial. I forget the other couple too, but they were the up-close Clementine images of the moon at the time. He was one of the people that really inspired me into, whoa, this stuff is amazing. Look at the colors. Look at the what we haven't seen from the NASA website and their information. But those three people really started me down that path where, hey, let's take a look at this myself, because I've always been one of those who doesn't, I want to trust people, but I want to see it myself. I want to figure it out myself, and take people's information along the way and never take it with a grain of salt, because I've learned the craziest stuff can be true, and it could sound absolutely insane to a normal person who's never looked into something. And then you look into it yourself and you find out, wow, this is really going on. Whether it be weather manipulation, things like that. You know, I'm not going to jump down a different hole here, because I know you do a whole bunch of these radio shows where you hear a lot of different stories from paranormal and everything. So it all kind of jumbled up. And those were the three guys that really got me saying, okay, let's keep pushing forward, to where I went from studying their work and presenting their work on my channel to actually doing my own research, getting my own finds together, and then sharing them with people through my YouTube channel, eventually the website after the YouTube channel started taking off. And now that we're in the UFA family, the United Family of Anomaly Hunters, through that whole channel, it's amazing how many people can be reached just through Facebook alone, Instagram, Twitter, all those things. So it's come a long way. But those were the three, I think, people that got me really into questioning what's really out there and what's going on.
So did you focus specifically on Mars at the beginning, or were you looking at the entire anomaly of the universe to wonder where man went?
It's a good question. I was basically looking anywhere that first off, that they were talking about, because there was only so many pictures from the moon was really the other place we had tons of pictures from. And that's been debated back and forth whether we were there or not. I happen to believe that we did make it to the moon. That the pictures that I've seen, some of them are absolutely real. There's been a whole lot of controversy considering how NASA's taken care of the information and the data since then. But I believe by looking at the photos, and not just two or three, by looking at all of them. I've looked at so many pictures and downloaded so many. These things are huge, some of these pictures that you download. So yes, the moon was one that I was really first started with, I think because that's where most of it was at the time. And then as the rovers, really it's the rovers that we've landed there that put us through me to Mars, because that's where the bulk of the material is coming from. Now, on my channel, we've looked at everything from Cirrus on out. We've looked at the different missions, New Horizon, Dawn, covered the Chinese mission, the Europeans. They've got a lot of space stuff coming up. Rosetta, and there's so much that's out there now, especially now. But at first it was more that moon, then into Mars, because Mars was where the data was coming back from, and it was such a wide variety of data. It was easy to start finding my own anomalies, and looking at stuff as though there was a civilization there. Just after I've got through the first, I pretty much had made my mind up to the point where there was at least an ancient civilization on Mars. By the time I started doing my own research, just going through Skippers, Keith Laney's, Hoagland's, and those guys, they convinced me. They convinced me by sourcing the material and allowing me to go find it myself, put it into my Photoshops, put it into my filters, take a look at it in different ways. Yeah, that's pretty much how it all got started, and where I started with the Mars.
Do you think that with Mars that there is some sort of human connection to that in a previous life situation?
Me personally, I believe that somehow we're connected. Something about Mars and Earth is been connected in our past. It's forgotten as of now. We're almost like a species who have forgotten our history, from what I believe at least. And there's many other people who believe that as well. I think that a lot of people out there may just feel it inside themselves. It's like one of those gut feelings to say, hey, Mars has drawn us. It's drawn me into it. And when you look at the surface, you look at it, it's so Earth-like, at least from the pictures coming back. It's so Earth-like. It feels so Earth-like. And we know that there was water there at one time. And that human connection, I believe we're most likely, not just here, we're most likely have been a species that have touched many more planets than we know of, for sure, or satellites of planets. A lot of people think that the aliens, there are aliens out there, and I believe people get abducted with that, but I think some of us, that we may be some of the aliens. Some of us may have been seated here. Who really knows when it comes to that? But there's a surreal feeling inside of me that's always said there's a connection there. And the artifacts that we find are so human-like to me. That also backs up that feeling I have. If that answers the question.
So, do you think that a previous human civilization may have spent time on Mars, or do you think they maybe had their own civilization at some point? Because I know people like Keith Laney believe that. And there's others who believe that. In fact, we've had people on this show who believe that there is people on the moon right now, up to 20 million people, which sounds so far-fetched to me and a lot of our listeners. But the possibility is still there with everything. So, like, getting back, if we look back in time, there's a lot of people who also believe that there was some sort of nuclear holocaust on Mars, and that's why it looks like a barren wasteland with only minimal structures that we are finding in these photos. What's your opinion on all of that?
And that's I think there was a scientist, it was John Bradenberg, just came out and had that hypothesis that there were 2 nuclear explosions on Mars, which would not, look at what we've done here just in the last 70 years when it comes to this. I think we're looking at a civilization that was a long time ago. I'm not sure if there's anybody on Mars now. It could be everything we see. We send places that look like they're barren wastelands with old structures that were there most likely during some of the worst weather catastrophes and things like that. But there's definitely there's that connection out there. There's that, I definitely believe, I'm right on line with Keith, where there was a huge civilization, I believe, on Mars. Now, as for now, I'm 10 to 1 to walk away from it. That I'm not sure people are out there right now. On the moon, I've heard that as well, too, that there's a breakaway civilization out there that's, been there for a while. I've heard human and other species are out there. To me, I haven't found the information. I haven't found the data that supports it, that gives me that feeling that I know it's true. But I've certainly heard stories like you just said, that it's creepy to actually think that there could be that many people right there and that close to us that we have no idea about. But I do believe that the governments of the world wouldn't tell us if that was the truth, just because of a lot of us feel like, hey, we're ready for some sort of disclosure, or you can tell us. I think that's where Mars kind of comes into it. They're telling us on a slow disclosure by finding brine, water on Mars, things like that. It's good. They're kind of rolling it out. They can't just come out and say, hey, there was a civilization there and it's gone, wiped out. I don't think that that's the way it'll ever go. And maybe not, though. Maybe that's one day they're waiting to do it. I'm not sure. But to think of a breakaway civilization is absolutely possible. We spend so much money goes into just NASA's budget and the defense budget during the Star Wars era when they were trying to build weapons up in space. Who knows what's getting sent up? I live over by Wallops. It's a base here where they shoot up a lot of the rockets, and they have public rocket launches all the time where they're sending things into space. But any old given day, you'll hear things going up. So they're sending stuff up into the air. They're sending stuff into space. Where it's going, who knows? But they are sending it from our spaceports here on Earth.
How are we getting there now? If you believe, which I'm going to assume that you do, that there is human civilization on the moon right now besides a couple of robot rovers, how did we get there?
That would be something I'm not sure. It would, with the leaps in technology that we have in the last 70 years and in really the last 10 to 15, you've got private companies building, space vehicles now. You've got, and it's not just here in the United States. Here, it's all over the world. People are getting up. So, if there is a civilization out there, I'm sure they've got some sort of propulsion systems that we don't understand. But the M drive is something that we're hoping is going to be something that could propel us into the future. But there's always a double-edged sword to giving that type of technology, and because people will use it for nefarious reasons, and I understand that. Who knows how they'd be getting there? I know there's people out there who believe that we can teleport to these places through jump rooms, on Mars and things like that. The lawyer, Andrew Basiago, says that he was teleported from space, from somewhere out here in the United States to Mars. I'm not one to tell him that he's that could have been what he did. I don't necessarily believe that, but who knows? Like I said, it's one of those things where there's no line in the sand that can be drawn. When you're in the dark and you're left in the dark about technologies, which we are. We have people like Stanley Myers, who had invented the hydrogen, basically a water-driven car that he could drive his dune buggy, he said, across the United States with very minimal water. He didn't matter if it was salt water. He just said water. Tested it in front of people, ends up dead. Shortly after. So, if people are figuring this stuff out, there's got to be propulsion and things like that are way beyond what we can even think of. Whether they've been taken from down ET craft and reverse engineered or worked on with ETs like a lot of people think. I'm not sure. There's a lot of great stories out there. I'm sure you've probably had a lot of those people on your shows who go through and tell you that people like Bob Lazar and those guys who said they worked at Area 51 with this amazing technology and reverse engineering. We could be basically the craft that we're seeing now in our skies could be the craft that are taking people taking people to the moon or taking people there. It could be humans that are actually in those crafts now. It could be drones, that have these amazing abilities to speed up, slow down, make turns that you couldn't do in a normal airplane. So hopefully this is the best really I could answer, because the moon, it would be the first easiest place to get to, I would imagine, than Mars. If the technology is really to the fact where we could teleport places, that would be pretty amazing. That's a stretch. That's a stretch for me. But having a different propulsion system that could have made a landing, a base on the moon, I could see that easily being hid from the people of the world. Not just us, the people of the world, really.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because, I mean, there are people like Randy Kramer, Andrew Bishago, and others who've said they have spent time on Mars going through jump rooms or using some sort of TR-3B type craft to get there. You know, how would we find that technology in the first place? Eventually, if this is true, that we have been to Mars and are currently on Mars, we have to get there somehow. So have you ever looked into the timeline of when we possibly started heading that way?
You know, the timeline goes back. The only timeline I know is what's been in public. You know, from when the Soviets, when it was the USSR, were sending craft out to us. You know, to NASA, the ESA. That's more of a timeline that I follow, because really, if there is stuff out there on Mars, and say humans are there, which one I just have a hard time believing that that's true. That people, but the artifacts that we're seeing, they're not sending back pictures anywhere near it. What we're finding looks ancient, something that was there before a huge catastrophe, whether it be a war or, like we had said earlier, a nuclear war or something along those lines. So really, I can't really answer that one, you know, because I know the official timelines that have us using regular propulsion, rocket engine, you know, light the candle and go. And that's kind of as public as far as they let us know. The secret space program, once I tried to really look into it, it got so far deep down the rabbit hole, I just basically backed myself out of it and said, let me stick to the pictures that we have. I can source, I can go find them in what's, you know, in good quality. What you see out on NASA's website is not what they call something a raw image. It's not a raw image. It's a 70% with JPEG artifacts, which are blur on its own. And then on top of that, you've got NASA blurring even more on some of these pictures and pulling certain things. So I really can't answer that one with a with a straight face, and other than the public.
No, and I understand that. It's a hard understanding and concept to try and put that together on a human level, because when we're trying to figure this answer out on a human level, it doesn't make sense from what we know as just looking around the public. But it does come into play that if we have people there currently, or we've had people there in the past, we've had to get there somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Whether and I don't think it was on a Saturn V, even though they were, you know, that was, I think, the ultimate goal was to build something that could push something that far into space. With the technologies that are out there now, I would not be surprised if we were using very high-tech things in deep black budget, things that we're not going to see, and we wouldn't see most likely in my lifetime unless there's unless there is an absolute disclosure for some reason, whether that would be a threat from outside Earth and, saying, here we have hostiles, which then, as, you know, we've been told so many things over so long, and there's so many people who've warned us about, don't fall for the fake alien invasions, or don't fall for this or that, you know. And so I know that I would imagine that if it was going to be Mars, that they would have to have something other than, you know, rockets sending them up, because you would have to send a lot of them. I mean, it would be, especially to have enough for a civilization out there, unless the civilization was there already, you know, and like we believe. But as far as that goes, I'm really more of it's a barren planet. We've kind of, it looks like, hopefully that's not what Earth is going to look like in, you know, another couple 100,000 years after we've been pretty bad stewards so far with our planet.
It always is just a big fascination in regards to Mars. I got to admit, it's one of the topics that absolutely intrigues me as well when I think about it, because it takes a lot of imagination and sci-fi to even believe that we could have people there. Are there any anomalies that you have found in your research that lead you to believe that this could be the possibility?
I have not seen one thing that actually would point to there being life there now. Everything that I see, and now that's just me, because there's a lot of my subscribers who see the same pictures and they think they see, living beings in them. Or I usually go back when I do that and I try and look at the 3 or 4 or 5 different pictures around it. You've got so many cameras, especially on Curiosity rover, to see different angles and things like that. And if something hasn't moved, in 3 or 4 hours, I don't see it being anything on, actually doing that. But so many people do believe that, and it's easy to fall into that because the images are, intriguing, but they're also of the same type. It's hard to imagine to me. Like I said, I've got a lot of people say there is and this is one that I love, but I even thought about this a lot in my first couple of videos that I was doing, that there would be maybe the occupants of the planet were small. Maybe they were smaller than a smaller planet, smaller. It would make sense. Some of the sizes of the buildings and things like that we found, that there may have been different, civilizations over the years. Here, look at all the different type of civilizations. Look at just here when Earth is teeming with life. Look at just in our brief history here, what we dig up is absolutely amazing. The variety of life and things like that. So if Mars was at some point, flushed with water, with vegetation, and I do believe there's still, some water still on the surface, even though they say the atmosphere, can't handle liquid water. I've got many videos. If you search on What's Up in the Sky 37, if you go to my YouTube channel and just type in water, you'll find about 10 videos that were begging NASA to look at some of these drippings that were coming down out of these rocks, because water is one of the most essential things for life. And we were getting these flows, and they emitted the flows. Finally, they came around and they took the ChemCam laser and they shot that laser at some of it. The actual data's not back yet, but I suspect in the next 3 or 4 months they'll come out and say that there's even more water than expected in the soil there, and they're going to say it's brine, the salty, and But every time I've found the water, I've gone back and looked at the weather details. This is in the videos I've done. There are days that within the last 5 days, the water had actually gone over freezing. The temperature had gone up and over freezing. A lot of people think that, or is under the assumption that Mars is always frozen cold. It does get, sometimes up into the 60s, for Fahrenheit, for people here. Like if you look at the weather data, it can get warm, especially in certain parts of it. So who knows? We could be sending the rovers to everywhere we know that there's been the nuclear holocaust and that those type of events happened. Maybe that's where we're sending them. We don't send them to the pictures of the water. Like we said, if you search for water, there's pictures taken from above and on the surface that look like standing water, and trees as well. A lot of people have seen those images out there. J.P. Skipper put a lot of them out. But I think that our teams at UFA and a lot of our other, researcher friends, because it's become almost like a network of us who are just fascinated by this stuff, have found so many more pockets of what might be liquid. So, with that being said, that's there. that's one of the big major building blocks of life. It's hard for me to subscribe to there being an actual civilization there, breathable air for us, but there's surely some amazing things going on there. There is weather, there's, mist, and Viking, one of our first landers there that actually touched down, showed frost in the morning, So it's very Earth-like in many ways, and I know the South Pole, if you just were to melt the South Pole, I think it would put about 30 feet of water, maybe somewhere around that, around the planet. So there's a lot of water there, too. What happened to it in the meantime, that's anybody's guess. But as for life there now, it's so hard to just say yes. That it's my personal belief is that we're just looking at pretty much a graveyard of what happened. And like I said, I remember one time when I think it was President Bush here who had said, we want to get to Mars to find out what happened there, because I think that more and more people in Rio know that there was a civilization collapse. There was something that hit the planet. Something happened to make it see like we did. And it could just be like us, where let's just say we were sending craft, Mars was sending craft here.
Will, I hate to cut you off right there, but we are going to go to a commercial break here momentarily, so I'm going to get you to hold on. You hold that thought, my friend. You place a big stop sign right there, because we're going to get right back to that once we get back from our break here on the mighty SOR. Will Farrar is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He is a researcher when it comes to all things anomalous up in space. Mars, the moon. And it's his birthday today, too. So he's sharing his birthday. We got a couple other birthdays as well. Beautiful Leanna, happy birthday to you. Mike in the SOR Space Travelers Club, happy birthday to you. Full of birthdays around here in the chat rooms tonight. We'll be back with more Will Ferrar for hour number 2 right after this on the mighty SOR. I'm your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Want a place to share your experiences without feeling judged? We have the place for you. If you've experienced sightings or contact with ETs, ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, and you'd like someone to confidentially look into the matter, just fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our goal is to help you get the answers you need to the experiences you've had with our professional team of researchers. Your information stays 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. Fill out your experience today only at spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night and Sunday, we get into the weekend. Dave Cruz with Spaced Out Saturdays, and on Sunday, Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Sundays with Elizabeth Anglin. They both get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network. 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tintinabulate. Tintinabulate is your password. Or as Joe would call it, tractor. Tintinabulate is your password for tonight. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. I have to laugh because we have a person in our Twitterverse who doesn't like the password, so he puts something violent up there every time, and it makes me laugh, and I caught it at the wrong time. Thanks, Canadian Joe. Anyways, you can use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also follow us in the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook if you want to join the live chat there. And we're on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. You can go on TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month, rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read the Encounter online, or watch some great video footage from UFO seekers and Contact TV, and so much more at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we have Will Farrar on the show. He is a researcher into all things strange and obtuse up in the skies above, from Mars to the moon and everything in between and outside of that. Will, we got you for one more hour tonight. How are you doing?
All right. Ready for the second hour. We've got the phone issues taken care of. I think you guys can still hear me, right?
Absolutely. And on Twitter, at Andrew Curry says, great show, Dave. Will is excellent. Terrific anomaly researcher, and he's a good friend. Thank you, Andrew, for tuning us in and giving us a follow on Twitter. I'm going to give you the old follow back right there because I do this stuff while I'm live on the radio. Gets me excited, so thank you so much. Make sure you come on and join us again. Anyhow, let's get back to the anomalies on Mars. You have looked at and studied a lot of these photographs when it comes to the red planet. What do you think we're seeing there? Is it just pareidolia in these photos that we are seeing, or is it more?
It's got to be more. It's to the point where you can almost take when you put the images together in like a gigapan or a mosaic, and you look at the pictures as a whole, there's too much of a coincidence. You can have maybe a little coincidence, one or two, where there's something strange, but I wouldn't. There's absolutely pretty much throw a rock in any direction, hit something where we are, especially where the rover is now, and the track it's taken through, and from the day Curiosity got there until today. I mean, we're talking, I think, about 1,600 days or something like that. We're up to now. Almost every stop along the way, there's anomalies. There's things that shouldn't be there if it was just rocks. They things shaped like absolute blocks, like cornerstones. Actually, things that look like fossils. Things look like bones laying out on the just sitting there laying out. If you go to whatsupinthesky.com, just like it said, I have a link there that says click here for the images for the show. That's just some of the high quality images I put up, and just kind of like little teasers for you guys who are sitting not listening. If you're driving, of course, don't get your phone out and start typing it in, but if you're sitting somewhere and you want to look at some of these anomalies, the site's up, whatsupinthesky.com. Usually if you peg it too much, it'll go down, since there's so much information there. We've got a great forum, a great group of guys who keep up space news there, and that keep the anomalies rolling in. It's almost nowadays where I've got a list of 100 pictures that have just been sent to me from people out there in the world, who have found something or think they found something, and I go out, check it out, and I'm honest with them. If I think it's something that's looks anomalous, looks like it could be something, I tell them. If it's something that was made by JPEG artifacts or just because of the image, the way it sits, I like to have more than one view of something before I call it totally anomalous now. And that's slowed down my video production a whole lot over the last couple of years, is really honing in on the good ones to show people, this stuff just is not a coincidence. It's not pareidolia. It's not, we're just, it's easy to say that in an article, and a lot of times these articles, they start out, it's like almost like a clickbait chain where they take the most outrageous things that are out there, like Obama's head on Mars, and they'll put that on a front page somewhere. Then all of a sudden, we're getting lumped in with these people, so it almost destroys some of our credibility through other people that have no, even my finds, people will take, make an article about it, and then write, Will Farrar said so-and-so, and they'll take something way out of context, or add something that somebody else said, and then send it around. I've had a couple of my finds that have gone viral that way, which is great to get a viral video, but to blur the lines of truth, as the media seems to do, it happens an awful lot. And I noticed that most of the press towards this stuff is more hokey and, oh yeah, tinfoil hat type guy, that comes along. And there's a lot of us that find these now. So anybody out there listening who's interested and really wants to answer that question for themselves, if you just go, and the link to the NASA website, all that stuff is on whatsupinthesky.com. You can find it pretty much anywhere. If you just type in raw images NASA, you can go out to the web, or on your phone. There's 2 apps, Midnight Planets. I'm going to plug these for whoever makes it. You can drive the rover basically through real pictures of it and find, use your phone to actually click on a picture. It'll tell you where it is, give you a source image, and you can go do that yourself. And there's another one called Mars Images that I think they're both on iOS and Android, so you can get it on either or. And I guarantee if you go ahead and download that after the show tonight, you'll find something that is out of place. Like, there's that much stuff that it can't be just coincidence, can't just be pareidolia, however that's actually said. That was out of my mind a long time ago. It's what gets used against us all the time as a description. Oh, that's just that. That's an explanation. But we're not just seeing things in rocks. And if you check out like I said, just the couple that I put up on the website today, those are the ones I like to take out to the radio stations, or if I'm going to be on something, because they're so, I was able to get them from the planetary database system, which is the raw data that comes back from the rover, which is much crisper and clearer than you can find on the NASA website. But with that said, you can still go to the NASA website and find stuff all day long. Or the gigapans, Neville Thompson, he's does gigapans. Keith Laney does gigapans. My buddy Todd from my forum, What's Up in the Sky, he puts those gigapans out, where these huge mosaics of areas on Mars where you can zoom in, zoom out. Other people have snapshotted things, and you can see for yourself. Really, the best way to convince yourself, or not convince yourself, or go the other way, because you might say, hey, this is all rocks, nothing, you see what you see, I see what I see, that type of thing. But there's just so much out there, from what looks to be, like I said, when it's that much in this one little spot where we've only traveled about 7 miles on just one rover, we found that much we obviously knew something was there when we sent, the last rover to Mount Sharp. I think we were looking for whatever type base was there, and it was obvious within the first 100 days that there was a huge city at the end of the visible view from the rover. So we've been slowly making it there, taking pictures along the way, and some of the stuff that's so blatant. It's funny how they call it Curiosity rover, but some of the things are so blatantly artificial that the Curiosity isn't curious at all. It just blows by those things, takes a couple pictures, and I'm sure they take pictures that we never get to see. I'd imagine that happens an awful lot.
Is there any photograph that you have seen on Mars that absolutely 100% confirms your theories that there is something there?
I think just the first one that's on my page. It's a picture that has what looks to either be a machine or a possible animal that had vertebrae. That was one of the first ones from Curiosity rover that really hits. It's from Sol 109. It's Sol, S-O-L. You'll see if you get into this Mars stuff, you go looking at the dates, or if you get those apps, anybody listening, if you take that Mars Images app or the Midnight Planets, you're going to see the SOL, which is basically the revolution. It's their day. Mars's day, I think, is it's very close to 24 hours, just like ours here on Earth, which is another very interesting coincidence that it almost has the exact same day as we have here as well. But that first image, you can see, I put two together so you can see the full length of it. But that was one that absolutely convinced me right off the bat and that was right at 109. And the one that's it's a huge picture, one of the billion pixel image that NASA put out. There's so much in there. In the distance, you can see the city that's up on the hill, that was once up on the hill. It's got a wall that runs along it. It's got what look to be pyramid-shaped buildings, dome-shaped buildings, and that was probably 100 sols in. We saw that crystal clear. And since that day, the quality of the images in that area have gone down, whether it was due to the rover, the images of the thing getting dirty as it runs through the Martian soil, kicking up dust. as the rovers, the one up there now is pretty interesting. It can actually drive itself and steer it away from some of the obstacles in its way with the autonomous steering. But some of those pictures, pretty much anyone on that page to me, if you look at it closely, and there's probably about 5 or 6 that are my favorite images, and especially ones at the bottom, you can see what looks like a human-style statue just blown to bits. Whatever took out Mars, and I say this a lot in my videos, it really, really, really hammered it. And pretty much flattened most stuff. It looks like a pancake building. If you look at pictures of some of the disasters here on Earth, whether it be man-made or terrorism or Mother Nature has come in and wiped an area clean, this is the type of, they're very, very similar. And I've got videos where I put 2 and 2 together and say which one's Mars, which one's Earth, and a lot of people say, hey, I couldn't tell which one it was. But there's a lot there. There's like I said, I actually please go out, get the Mars. It's like everybody wants to do something with their phones. Your phone's so easy just to go out there and look for some quick anomalies, and you'll find them. And you'll be a believer. If you weren't believing, you'll believe right away, especially when you find one yourself. That's kind of like the rush you get. Like the rush you get right before you probably come on air every night. It's like, oh, my work, there it is, something right there, perfect for it. There's no way this was created by Mother Nature. This has intelligence written all over it.
Do you believe then that there is any sort of connection between what could be on the moon and Mars as well? Do you think there's a connection between the two?
There's got to be a connection at some time. For me, there had to have been a species, and I think our species, that was multi-planet, on our moon, not only just our moon, on Phobos, which is one of the moons of Mars. There's Buzz Aldrin talked about this, I think it was on Larry King Live or one of those shows back in the day, where there's a monolith. He talks about the monolith. It looks like a very tall monolith just sitting out there on this little potato-shaped moon that goes just flying around Mars. It's quick too. The moon just is really quick where its orbit is. There's also other, countless asteroids out there, countless block comets. When we saw some of these like 79P, I think that was it. Sometimes I get the numbers and stuff mixed up. But the latest European Space Agency, when it landed when we got pictures of these comets up close, or these asteroids, they're nothing what I thought in my head where they were going to look like. The one almost looks like somebody could take that and turn that into a machine. So it might not just be planets. We could be looking at civilization as mined all sorts of things. If most civilizations here on Earth run from raw materials, a civilization that would have been able to go to more than one or two planets, Mars, say Mars and Earth, why not other places? Why not these other moons? And then you see stuff there like the monolith on Mars, and you think, well, it's happened. They've moved. They've been there before. And I'm one to believe that it's human-like intelligence. That like we have forgotten our past, our deep, long gone past. Some of the stuff here on Earth is, I think, much, much older than what we believe or what we've, you can't carbon date a stone. There's a lot of our dating mechanisms here on Earth and a lot of things we're finding buried in, Turkey and all over the world, really are changing how I think a lot of people think about the history of Earth. And we're at a time where history is going to be rewritten one way or another. And whether the space stuff gets, rewritten as well, I'm hoping that comes with it, because people deserve to know if there, was life there, if it came from us, if it looked like us, if it possibly could have been us. They say that Homo sapiens and they say we walked hand in hand here on Earth together with the Neanderthals, and some people still had Neanderthal genes. So that's two different types of, that could be going on all over. And maybe one was a lot of people believe in the Anunnaki and I guess they were supposedly a race. This is one thing I haven't researched much, but supposedly a race that came around every once in a while and would, there would be either disaster, they'd help. I'm sure you've probably had somebody on your radio station talk about them before. Billy Carson's a good friend of ours at UFA. He does a lot of the United Family of Anomaly Hunters. He does a lot about those type of breakaway type civilizations where he believes that stuff has happened before. So why not? If we can hit Mars in there, I would imagine at one time maybe the solar system looked totally different. Just here. Just our little neck of the woods. What we see right now could have been, a million years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Maybe the planets were in totally different places. Who knows? But maybe it was easier to travel then, too, if they were in different places. And we can't look at that. We're looking at it from our current standpoint where, okay, we need to use this propulsion to get here. Could it be possible? I've heard stories and I've seen like I said, the Cirrus pictures from it seems like everywhere we go, New Horizons found all sorts of interesting things on that, on that planet Venus. Like, well, what was it, Pluto? And Pluto looks like it had all sorts of amazing cast to it. That who knows where that was at one time in our solar system. And it's there. Like Richard always says, Richard Hoagland, we do a lot of chatting back and forth because we're working on a book. He always says, we can. Why not? If somebody could have the technology to live on different places, they could have the technology to move things, maybe move huge objects, such as moons, planets, things like that. The things we're even looking into at just our primitive stage now, how to move an asteroid, or if we have or something coming in at us, a threat. How do you move it? How could we blast it one way or another? We've got just in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be launching satellites and stuff that are going to work on that type of technology. How would we do it? Defend our planet. So that's a long answer for yes. I do believe that could be many different planets and even moons that we step foot on in our long forgotten past.
Will, I want to talk a lot more about the moon here, but I do want to ask you, besides Mars and the moon, do you believe or have you found any sort of proof whatsoever that states that we as human beings in recent times, let's say the last 50 years, have traveled anywhere else besides those two places?
As in on manned missions to those places?
Yeah, manned missions. I have heard some, I don't want to call them ridiculous stories, but I want to say that I've had people on here say we've been to Venus, that we've been to Titan, that we've been all over this universe with a secret space program. Now, once again, I will finish that by saying, that it's hard to believe, it's hard to fathom that we have the technology to actually get out there, unless we have some way, somehow perfected to be able to bend some sort of time warp or wormhole or something along those lines.
I've heard the same thing about Titan. Titan's going to be something big. I mean, Titan's been put forth in movies. It's been put forth in a lot of this stuff seems to run through Hollywood and through different, various chains before it actually starts coming up and we start sending probes there. Titan, I've heard the same exact thing. Titan, Venus. I've also heard that with some of the Europa was one that we've been out to. One of the, I think it's a solid ice right now that we believe might have a pristine ocean under it. So it's hard to contemplate that, thinking of how we think. Normally here as Earthlings is, just on our one planet looking out into the stars. But like I said, and you said, there would have to be a technology that we harness that isn't being used commercially anywhere. It's being hidden by budget. Everything would have to be hidden against it. And that there's a lot of room in the United States to hide a lot of stuff. And around the world. We could have, bases down, we do have bases in Antarctica. We could have places all over that send things up that we're not sure of or we don't know about. But I've heard the same things, and it's easy to dismiss them. It's like, oh yeah, no way. Like I said, Andrew Bosteco's one guy, go back to the guy said he was on a jump room, and they were somehow, he'd go into a door here, and they'd end up out of a door on Mars. But who am I to say that didn't happen? It's really interesting.
It is very interesting, especially if you believe in the whole Valiant Thor project as well, where, for people who don't know who Valiant Thor was, in the 50s and 60s, an alien named Valiant Thor from the planet Venus was said to have met up at the White House with the president and stayed, and some people believe is still here. I mean, so there are a lot of stories, sci-fi or not, that are out here, and it's just trying to figure out what we can believe and what we can't will. And, being in this position with the research that you do, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, don't you?
Yeah, you really do, and that's one thing I've set the bar for, and we've done it over at with all my other friends that are anomaly hunters, that we won't just put something out that's not backed by a source. There's got to be an official source for it, like a source link. What really got me doing a lot of these videos, and when I finally said I'm going to make this channel more about space to what's up in the sky, because I had that Antarctica video out and a couple other ones, and had subscribers before I even knew that I did. I just stumbled back on the channel one day while I was heavy into this research on the moon and Mars, and really came to the point where there's so much. It's the Valiant Thor thing where he supposedly was here. That's an absolutely amazing story, and I just actually watched a documentary about it where people were working with our government, and there's ETs working with us. I could imagine that the technology we have is way beyond what we could even dream of. The pictures of them in there's pictures if you search for Valiant Thor. There's pictures of him, and he looks like he'd blend in with any other person, but what was it? Eisenhower, I think he supposedly met with. Was he the president at the time? I know we had all sorts of sightings down in D.C. There were UFO sightings all over the Capitol down there, above the White House.
It is amazing in regards to the way the stories are told, but let's go back to the moon, because the moon has its own famous stories as well. There is word that Neil Armstrong on an emergency line stated, "They are here, they are on the hill, and they are watching us." There are other astronauts, such as Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who stated there was things anomalous with the Apollo programs. And then there's people out there who believe that it didn't end at Apollo 17, that it actually went 18, 19, 20, and 21.
I've heard all of those. And Edgar Mitchell, rest in peace, he really did stick his neck out there and gave a lot of research and a lot of his time to pretty much letting us down that rabbit hole a little bit, and it's amazing. I'm sure some of the people he had access to, even to where you had mentioned like Armstrong, that when they came back, they had code names and things like that. If you're on the public channel or the private channels when you're speaking. I've also heard the Apollo 17, 18, 19, 20 that they did fly. Like you had said. Maybe we weren't invited back. Maybe we were told to come back. I've also seen a lot of people have seen the video that looks supposedly we were going to Mars in one of our crafts. I think it's been debunked fairly well, this movie, but it shows a landing of a craft on Mars right about that same time. It looked like an Apollo era type film or actual screen and things like that. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that or not, but there's so much out there that's disinformation or stuff that people believe because they've done their research and that's where their research has left them. That puts up so much, that just really just muddies the water up to find out what's truth. What is truth when it comes to this stuff? Would we, will we even ever find some little inkling of it out there? That's why I really like to do the things that can be sourced, and that's, like I said, that's why I created my video. I would go to these videos, and there would be these amazing pyramids. A picture of a pyramid, it would say pyramid on the moon, and then I'd go to hit information or look through the video, like, how can I find this image? And the only way I could find it would be searching the internet. But it would lead back to a UFO website, that looked like more clickbait type things, clickbait being, for people out there who don't know, the things on, the side that the urgent must see this, or, your life will never change after you watch this video, things that try and draw you in and then feed you the information or make somebody money. And really that's happened in the last 5 years. The whole UFO community has been struck by this. All the fakes that come out have really been not just people playing around, it's just people making money from this through clicks on AdSense, through various Patreon accounts, things that people believe and trust people and actually will give money to forward their research. It's amazing. But I always said when I started this, I'll always provide a source link, and more than one if I possibly can. That way you can see it from two different angles. So any of my videos, if you go watch, you're going to be able to go study that yourself. I think I've got about 700 videos now on there. Not all of them are anomalies. Some of them are space news. I don't do them as often as I used to. With work and everybody being so busy, sometimes it's hard to get 1 or 2 videos out per month, because I want to do ones now that really, really are more mosaic. They show a whole picture. It's not just one little artifact or 2 or 3 little artifacts sitting there. But anybody who I like to deal with, researchers, stuff, if they don't hand you the source pictures, I don't really like to deal with them. But I get some emails from people who have these wonderful stories like Valiant Gore. But they're just stories. There's nothing that they can necessarily back up things with, so I don't put them on the channel. But I surely discuss them with people like, my friends that are in this type of, into the paranormal, into the UFO, into all of this, because it's such just one of those subjects that can just either make your skin crawl or, make your hair stand up, depending on which side of it you're looking at, the positive or negative. But
I got a couple questions coming in from our audience, if you don't mind, Will, because we always like to include our audience in on this. This one comes from hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, from God of Thunder, otherwise known as Canadian Joe. Will, do you believe there is an existing civilization on Mars or the remnants of one?
I think we're looking at the remnants of something there. If anything is actually still there living, it would have to have gone underground at some point or adapted to maybe over the years. I would more see like small animals, small things like that would maybe made it. I don't see evidence that there's now this is just from the pictures that we have on the surface of fresh buildings, any new building, things like that. But there are some pictures that have what look to be either, something that was, there's one from the Spirit rover, or maybe Opportunity, that looked, in the picture, there was this little thing that looks like a squiggly, almost snake-looking object there that wasn't there, 10 sols earlier. So something either blew it there, and it looks to have a trail behind it, or it popped out of the sand and walked. That's on my channel. If you go on my channel, you can find that. That's a very well-known, that's not something I found, but that's a very well-known anomaly that's out there. So there could be, but as for, I think we're looking at remnants of a great society too, one that really built things that were beautiful. Some of the remnants of some of the ruins that we find, just on some of the pictures I put, the last 2 pictures from Saw 1065 on my page have some of those ruins. You can see how meticulous they were, with the way that they cut, the way they use their tools, things like that. But I do believe that we're not looking at live things going on right now.
Another question from our audience. This one comes from Catherine, who is asking, do you believe or have any beliefs about or whether or not we've actually, as humans, made it to Mars?
That's a very, very good question, because if for say the people like Andrew Bastiago and them are telling the truth, then that's a yes. But if not, and I just have to look at what we are been told and know what technology we have, the answer would be no. So if I look at what my research has brought me to, which a lot of it just focused on the images, it's very hard to land on Mars. There's been an awful lot of rovers sent, or orbiters sent that blow right past it. They don't make it. The Soviets have tried a lot back in the Soviet era. It's one of those ones where if you can believe some of the people out there talking, saying that they're there, or from what I've seen, I can't say whether or not that anything's there or that we've been there. I would love to think that, though. It sure would be interesting to know that we have 20,000, or like the whole Total Recall out there mining things. You guys watched those movies over the years. Good question, though.
Let's get to another question. This one from Craig. Mike or Will, what's the reason you started this search, and what is your Shangri-La at the end of this road?
It's a really good question. I started it basically because that trip home that night from Florida, when I heard Richard come on and talk about, he was with George Norrie, and he was talking, maybe Derek Bell at the time, and talking about the remnants of Cydonia and the pyramids up there and the face on Mars, and going to do my own research on that. The whole complex there is absolutely amazing. That fascinated me, and that actually hooked me on it. Really, from there, it was off to the races, and my Shangri-La would be some sort of truth that can actually be proven via pictures, and maybe the truth is that we're looking at ruins, and that's what I found at least through my research, looking at thousands and thousands of pictures, literally years of sitting in front of the computers. And like I said, I've worked on computers my whole life. Since I was 15, I've been working in the information technology field, so I've got a real good grasp of image manipulation, seeing images that have been manipulated and noticing the manipulation. And NASA manipulates a lot of the images that come out. I blur things out. I've got a lot of videos where they've, almost given full proof that they've blurred things out with boxes and things like that, whether it being done by the hands of somebody in NASA or the hands of even an like something on the rover software that says that, this meets this criteria. We don't send the data down, we blur it out. So it's one of those ones where my Shangri-La would be just to find some sort of truth. I mean, I would love to know that we were there on Mars once, and I really don't feel that it's going to be a future planet for us. I think we're going to have, if we're going to survive, we're going to have to really figure out. We're going to have to go elsewhere. We're going to have to find a way to bend time, bend space. Hopefully, that's what there is a program out there doing that, and not everybody's going to be invited if that's the truth. That's the case. There's going to be a lot of people, but the way Earth is now, we can't sustain it here. My Shangri-La would be a beautiful Earth again, where we didn't have nuclear power plants, where we weren't, setting this place up to be. There are people, I think, the baby boomers, and that whole generation, and before that, the people, they weren't thinking long term, they were thinking really short term, and it's put a lot of us in a bind now. When you have an earthquake and look at somewhere like Fukushima, so in order, maybe my Shangri-La would be another planet out there that we can find, something close enough. Alpha Centauri, maybe there's something there for us. Who knows? But truth, just some sort of truth. I'd love to have something, and not official truth, not necessarily from NASA coming out. I've been to these space science weeks where you sit in with these big, the heads of NASA, and they talk about the science behind it, their missions, how the missions are going. And I sit at lunch and I was talking to some of these people, and there's a lot of people out there who think, that we've never left the Earth, we can't leave the Earth. That stuff to me is just plain hogwash. Listening to these people talking actual sciences, the science is there. But maybe my Shangri-La would be that bottom of Mars where we've got all that water sitting, melting out one day, and that's where we go. Who knows? We could put kick our feet up on Mount Sharp and hop on a boat one day. Maybe in a future or past life.
Well, let's go back to the moon for a second here. Do you believe that we have been on the moon since the Apollo missions?
I'm not sure. I would hope that we would still be there, but what we found there, I know that there's helium-3, there's a lot of mining opportunity there, which maybe that's, if there were extraterrestrials or there is a base there, maybe that's what it's for. I mean, but as far as I know or research I found along the way, I have nothing telling me that there's anything going on right now. There are a lot of interesting things going on, changes going on the moon. The moon is a lot more active, I think, than we know, that we've figured out. Just by looking at the image, astronomers out there who put their images up from, there's a bunch of great websites where they share their telescopes, what they've got. It's kind of like when you go to a speaker thing and you want to be the loudest speaker, that you want to win the dB competition. These guys are the same way with their telescopes, and they get these beautiful images. And like Tycho Crater, places like that, where there's interesting lights, things moving across the surface. So there very well could be, but that's all been amateur type stuff. It's not necessarily official links. And I've pretty much gone with I think right now Earth is the only place we've got life sitting, at least intelligently. Some of us.
So even though you are someone who looks up into the stars, you don't believe what a lot of people are saying, like with the secret space program, that we actually have bases and jump rooms on the moon as we speak.
It's tough for me to believe that, just because it's we're still doing so much here that the technology has come a really long way, but it hasn't grown at this type that I think it would need to. But I think we'd see more and more of that technology out in the public sector. Maybe it will come out in the next 20 years. I mean, look at our computers. They've changed just in the last 15 years. So far, they've jumped in leaps and bounds. So I can't sit here and say no. But I'd love to wish. Yeah, I love wishful thinking. How cool would that be if we had technology that was jump rooming people out there? I've really focused more on the images themselves, other than that, because, like I said, that relies on somebody's story, somebody's take on it. And you can get enough people to convince me, like I said, if you got a room of people who have all experienced the same things from different areas, that would be something different. I'd put more credit to that, but officially and from what I feel, I can't. I don't know. I'm just one who hasn't jumped onto that yet.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are a lot of people who have.
Mm-hmm. But you can't blame people for that. you can't blame people for thinking that, because we don't know what the government has. We don't know what's flying out of Area 51 or black op bases such as that. We don't know if these black triangles people are seeing are actual human craft or something else. You know, there's been enough little seedlings of evidence that would say that there might be something to it, but we can't prove anything, and it's all on theory and conjecture. Is that the way you look at it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great way to put it. It's definitely theory, and some of the bad. It's fascinating too, and you can get really caught up. I could spend a day just getting lost on YouTube, you know, going through stuff about space program or secret space program, and usually that's what ends up happening. I'll sit here and I'll get started, you know, I'll have my to-do list for the weekend or something like that, and I'll end up half of it will get done and the rest will be, you know, this is a hobby. You know, it's one of the things I've been interested in, you know, for a long time now. The fact that I've just been putting some of the information out there is really just to pass it along to people so they can further their research on or introduce them to it. You know, I think the way I do my videos, I put a little picture of me up in the corner. I don't hide who I am. I give people my real email address. You know, I'm very open with it. If people have videos or they have things that are interesting, I ask them to send it to me. I'm not going to. I have posted a couple of UFO things that people have sent me, and that helped actually debunk one of them for somebody who it really helped the person out who was kind of, you know, the lady who sent it to me was very distraught from it, and somebody figured out exactly what it was. So I tie back and I try and keep that line to where something official comes in, and so I've got a to-do list of 100 photographs that people have sent that are NASA or European Space Agency, and now we've got the Indian Space Agency. I mean, their ISR, they are absolutely leaps, and it's amazing what their plans are, and their ambitious goals are being met one by one. You know, and they've been successful in so many of their missions now. So it's not just us, and we've got the private sector as well. So it's going to be a heck of a 10 years coming up. Very excited to see if we actually can get our new rover back on Mars. I hate to say it, knock on wood, we're due. NASA's due for a loss here. It's hard to get to Mars. It's not as easy as the rovers, the three that have made it recently, have suggested. We're due a loss, as you know, you would say in sports terms.
Well, we only got about 4 minutes left with you. This has flown right by. I know. I hate when that happens. But I want to get to a couple questions from our audience here at #SpaceOutRadio on Twitter. Canadian Joe is saying, by allowing these photos to go public, whether of the moon or Mars, do you believe this is NASA's way of giving some sort of soft disclosure?
Absolutely. I absolutely do. I think it's part of it, because they can't come out and just say, yeah, here's what we found. This play, it's got to be a soft, slow. People are very jumpy animals. You know, we a lot of us who research it think, oh, we can take it, you know, the information. But the normal person out there who hasn't looked into this, who has made fun of people for it, it would be such a paradigm shift for them. They would call on their religion. There would be so much that would break that this is the way to do it. It would be ancient life on Mars. That's what I think they were going to find. First it was the water and the brine and the old stuff, and I do believe in the next 5 years they will say, okay, we found artifacts. That will be part of that slow disclosure to whatever is really going on, whether there's ETs working with us here or, you know, something we know of. And, Stephen Greer, but...
And let's get to your final question of the night. This one comes from Sailor at #SpaceOutRadio. Do you believe Mars and all the hype around it as a way of hiding any sort of secret space program?
That's a very good question, too. That could be why they let a lot of these images through, to keep some of us focused on that. A lot of us researchers who would be looking otherwise at things like the secret space program. That's a very good thought.
Wonderful. I appreciate you coming on in. Well, I got one final question for you, and you can take a minute or so to answer it. Do you then, Will, believe in extraterrestrial life and it coming to Earth so far?
Yes, I do. And I'm not sure whether it's dimensional, interdimensional, whether they come from far away, whether they're able to be in the same space as us. I think we're just learning what we are here on Earth. We really don't. We're still just trying to find out who we are. But there's been enough military, there's been enough people, Dr. Stephen Greer brought people out, enough deathbed confessions that, yes, there are some sort of ETs that are out there, whether they're hostile or whether they're, malevolent. That's to discuss later, another show. But I do believe, yes, there's definitely something visiting us from somewhere. And if you go online, there's a lot of books out there that show you the races of, like I said, it's all speculation or it's all hearsay from other people, but there's a lot of overlapping data that seems to be, from different sources, different places that seem to connect the dots that say, yes, there is. And they've crashed here possibly. We've possibly have 2 or 3 of their vehicles are reverse engineering them.
Right. Will, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight, my friend. Where can people find your information?
They can find me on whatsupinthesky.com, whatsupinthesky37 on YouTube.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Will Farrar on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We talked about Mars. We talked about the moon, secret space programs. What a treat. We're going to have to do that again. I think we're going to need Will for the 3-hour show next time. Will, you hold on for a second. I'm going to send us off to commercial here. Coming up in hour number 3, joining me from S4 will be the legendary Corrins. Corey Rees will join me. We'll be back right after this.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. welcoming you all into the Friday night episode of the Mighty SOR. Tomorrow night and Sunday, we have the weekend crew coming into Spaced Out Radio headquarters. Dave Cruz with Spaced Out Saturdays tomorrow night, and on Sunday, Elizabeth Anglin's Spaced Out Sundays Cosmic Passport. Each start at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, right here at the Mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow me on social media, you can do so on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also join us for live chat in the SOR Space Travelers group. We're on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. You can listen to us on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. You can also listen to us online on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. And the password for tonight, as Bill Cardwell sets the password each and every night right here on the Mighty SOR, Tintinabulate. Tintinabulate is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the Mighty SOR. Now, if you go over to our website, it's spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Read the encounter online, or check out UFO Seekers or Contact TV videos, everything at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back to the third hour. He's usually here every now and again on the SOR Roundtable. Corey Rees. Apparently I'm getting the last name right after getting schooled a couple weeks ago at the Forest Moon Paracon, because it's spelled Ruiz, but it goes by Rees. What the hell is with that? What is with that?
I don't know, man. Look, I'll be honest. I was adopted. I got the name by accident. You'd have to ask them. I just know how it's supposed to be said.
Sure, you bring it all on me. Bring it all on me. You know? What do you do? What do you do? Our first guest of the night, Will Farrar. I thought he was fantastic, you know, in breaking down Mars and breaking down if there's a secret space program. And the one thing I liked about him, Corey, and I'm curious to get your opinion on it, is the fact that even though he's been studying this for well over a decade, he's still not sure whether or not there is a secret space program. What is your take on that?
Well, you know, I want to start by saying that I really respect Mr. Farrar in what he was saying, because you know, even though he's got all of this study down, all of this stuff that he's looked into, you know, he doesn't feel that there's certain things there, but he's not closed-minded to it. He says, yeah, it's possible. But, you know, to what he's found so far, he says no. You know, I'm of a little bit of a different view on that, is that, you know, as many experiencers as I have met who have had stories of, you know, seeing things from alien sides or hearing of secret space programs and stuff. And look, our government is shady as hell down here in the U.S. There is no doubt about it. For them to have a secret space program and keep it under lock and key with, you know, black budgets, as it's put, I don't doubt it at all. You know, how far we've gone with that secret space program, where we're at, I don't know. Do I think that we're on Mars? There's a possibility. On the moon, I'm pro to the fact that I think we're on the moon.
I think we could be on the moon, too. I think we could be on Mars. And, it's just so hard to tell, Corey, because, you deal with it every day being part of Forest Moon Paranormal, as well as being on every Saturday night on S4 with Eric Cooper. We deal in the weird and the strange when we are dealing with these. And we have to keep an open mind in regards to everything. But at what point do we go from keeping an open mind to believing that this might actually be possible?
Boy, it's a fine line. It really is. It's... And you know what it really comes down to, and I think you've mentioned it, several times, it comes down to the experience. It's one of those things that there's a lot of this stuff that unless you actually experience it, or really, really close with somebody who does, you still have a certain amount of skeptical thought to it. I mean, there's still things that I'm fairly skeptical to, that I kind of go, yeah, I don't know about that, Is it possible? Yeah. But I haven't witnessed enough at this point to say, yeah, okay. For sure. As far as I'm concerned, yes, that's true.
I'm still not too sure whether or not we can believe it or not. I want to believe. I'm going to put that I want to believe. The meme everybody puts out there with the spaceship. I want to believe. And I believe in a lot of things, man, because I've had a lot of stuff happen. I make no bones about it. I don't know why it's happened to me, but, from being taken, as recently as last Saturday, to being, a contactee, to being someone who has seen numerous UFOs, I have a really, really hard time in understanding that there isn't something out there. But still, when you look with your open eyes at trying to figure out whether or not we've actually got that technology to build something like a TR-3B, which people have coined, or anything along those lines, it's tough to fathom whether or not we are able to do that for ourselves, to get to the moon, to get to Mars, or anywhere else.
Well, we are a creative bunch, and we have a real good tendency of, reverse engineering stuff. I'll be honest, I'm a mechanic in my regular day life, and there's often times where I have reverse engineered something to see how it works, to see if I can make it better. We've had enough crashes of UFOs, documented crashes of UFOs. Now, of course, they're well covered up, but we've had enough documented crashes that, you can't tell me that the moment that those things hit the earth and they got them back to some place where they could start tearing it apart, that they didn't have the best scientists and the best mechanics they knew and the best engineers they knew working on how to reverse engineer those things to figure out how they worked, how they ticked, and the fact that they've probably built some of their own and tested them. Now, some of them probably failed, I'm sure. But that at some point, they say even a blind squirrel sometimes finds a nut. At some point here, these guys that have been tearing these things apart have got to have figured out how they work enough to make something that works at least similarly to take out there. Now, whether it's a TR-3B or what it may be, I don't know for sure, but it is highly, highly possible. And this is one of those things that even though there's, a little bit of skeptic in me yet, I'm leaning pretty heavily towards that we've got some of this stuff. Now, where have we taken it? That I can't tell you. There's a possibility that we could have figured things out well enough that, yeah, maybe we've went to the moon. Maybe we've went to Mars. We've talked about before about how aliens have made deals with our governments. Who's to say that in some of those deals there that it wasn't, passageway to go to some other planet with them and start some sort of base or have, some sort of spaceport or who knows what there. These are the things that we don't know, but are the high possibilities.
No, I agree that it's the high possibility that there is the potential that it's happened. And we don't know what's at Area 51. We don't know what's at S4. Is there actually recovered crashed spacecraft there? We think there are. We want to believe that there are. I tend to think that they're somewhere because Roswell did happen. San Augustine did happen. Kecksburg happened. And we have to take all of these areas and we have to think that there is something there. So, yes, the reverse engineering is 100% plausible. But is it enough, or have we learned enough to know that these are craft that we have been able to reverse engineer in order to create some sort of craft that can sail off into space that isn't going to harm the human body through gravity?
Well, and there is the $64 million question. But if you believe guys like Bob Lazar and other guys like that who have said that, hey, I worked in these places, I saw this stuff, yeah, they were reverse engineering it. There's got to be some validity to that, and there's got to be, a real high probability that they have figured out some way to do that. Because if you think about it, when you talk about Greys and some of the other alien species, or even more like the Nordics. When you talk about the Nordics, who are very human-looking in nature, you have to think that whatever ship that they reverse engineered, that these entities were able to survive in, then we've got to be able to survive in them too, you would think.
Well, and that's the key. Can we survive? I mean, it's easy to say reverse engineer something and fly it around Area 51, but can we take it off and go into space? If you listen to Andrew Bashago and you buy his story, if you listen to Randy Kramer and you buy his story, or other super soldiers that are out there who said they have been in space, they've been to the moon, to the bases there, they've been to Mars and the bases there, it always seems to be the moon and Mars. Yet we hear there is so much other activity going on as well. And it's to the point where it just sounds incredulous that this stuff is even possible.
Well, and there you have to wonder, are some of these people that come out like this, are they put out there to throw shade to it, to make it to where you want to be skeptical of it? We don't know. When I look at a lot of the stories of some of these different people, even as far-fetched as some of them are, you have to think, well, there's got to be a kernel of truth in there somewheres. Especially when you hear them and the emphasis that they have, they would have to be one hell of an actor to be able to produce that much believability in what they're saying. Now, Captain K, I believe he was called, there's a lot of his story when I listened to it, when he was on your show, that I sat there and go, the skeptic in me is really shooting up hard, and there's a lot of that I think is just no. But, because even when I listened to it, a lot of it sounded like the game Doom, as I'm sitting here going. But, as we know today, a lot of things that are on the market, movies, games, all that stuff, are all made from reality and made to make it look like it's not. So who knows? But, even with those, I look at that and I look at some of these stories and say, at the base of this story, even if they did make some of it up, there's got to be a kernel of truth in there somewheres.
So where do you think that kernel of truth lies then, Corey?
That's the part I don't know. And I mean, that's where you really kind of have to dig down in the story and go, what of this seems truly plausible? Be skeptical in it. Don't be closed-minded. But what is it that seems plausible? And I think that's where a lot of the kernel of truth lies.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put you on the spot here then, and I'm going to ask you point blank. What do you think is possible? What do you think is in the human realm of the possibility? I mean, don't forget, Ben Rich did say publicly that we have already got the technology to get ET back home again. How much do we put in that if it had stock value?
All right. So you want to ask me point blank where my belief lies. Okay.
Sure.
I think that there has been extraterrestrial craft that has crashed. I think that we have reverse engineered a lot of it. I think that if we don't already, I think we're on the verge of having craft that will go through space. Now, at what pace? Can we achieve light speed? I don't know. But will they go in space? I think they will. You know, you can't, you look at the ingenuity of humanity and all of the things we've done, and keeping in mind that I think there's a good portion of some of our technology that came from ET. But we still put it together. We still made it work and improved on it. So, you know, I'm looking at the ingenuity that we have done and the possibility of these crashes being reverse engineered. Yeah, I think that we've got some craft that can probably go into space. Now, what to extent, I don't know. But I think we can get out there. And, you know, especially when I talk to guys like our Keith Andrews and stuff, you know, I think there's extraterrestrial out there that are a little afraid of us getting off the planet. And it's because we're like a really smart child with a bomb stick in our finger and we want to play with a shiny red button. We're really bad about stuff like that. So, yeah, I think we probably do scare them a little bit.
Hell, we scare ourselves, man. We scare ourselves. and that really is enough to say anything. I do believe that we do have craft there that can reach, you know, well beyond the International Space Station. I don't know how, but it's just my belief. I think there's enough evidence out there to see that we have moved technology along far away. I mean, let's face it. What the military creates, we as people get eventually. You know what I'm saying? We get it all eventually. But the whole point is, there are some things that they're not going to give us. You know,
oh, yeah.
There are things that they aren't going to give us for the sake of militarization. I mean, let's face it. This version of the military-industrial complex isn't going away anytime soon. You know, so when I look at everything, I think we do have the technology to go. I just don't believe yet, you know, as much as I want to believe, that we have been to Mars, or that we currently have people on Mars, or that we would have bases on the moon. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. But I want to believe. I just don't know how to believe.
Hey, yeah, and I get that, you know. Trust me, been there, done that. You know, my thoughts are Mars, that's kind of an unknown. I'm a little bit skeptical on that one still, too. That one is a fair bit off. Now, as for the moon, I think it's plausible. For us, you know, with as much black ops and black budget stuff, you know, look at how many millions and billions of dollars, if you watch the news or anything else, you know, and I'm not talking fake media stuff. I'm just talking when you pick out the facts of how many millions and billions of dollars just end up lost in our government down here. No accounting for it. Don't know where it went. But, you know, no big deal. You hear a little blip about it and it's gone. You know it's there, and guaranteed if you had some way to pull the numbers, you'd be able to find it. Where'd that money go? Guaranteed that money went into black budgets. Things that they don't want anybody to know about. So, you know, the fact that we could possibly have a base on the moon, craft that can go to there and back, you know, I mean, we see too many craft anymore. Now, is it more people being awake and looking up at the sky? Maybe. But it sure does seem like we see a whole lot more craft nowadays than we used to. So is that all ET? Or is that some of us coming to and fro to somewhere in outer space? That's the question.
Well, and that is the million-dollar question. Is it ours or is it theirs or is it a combination of both? As an experiencer, I would say it's more theirs than ours. That's just my opinion. You know, I'm not fully in depth with what they are doing at programs such as Area 51 or anything like that. We can only go by the words of what people have said. I know with my own eyes, the craft that I have seen have been very, very intriguing. Very intriguing. And I don't believe they would be human in any way possible. Maybe I don't want to believe anything different, but that's just the way I feel because I've had my own personal experiences. Now, there are people out there who have had their own proof by saying, you know what, I have, gone on and seen these aircraft leave from Area 51 or Dulcie or Dugway or wherever, Wright-Patterson. But I think for the most of us, we can't tell the difference. And maybe that's what the government wants. They don't want us to know the difference. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. They don't want us to know the difference. Because if we knew the difference, then we'd have proof. That's the thing. They don't want us to have proof. They want to keep us as shaded as possible. They want to throw enough conspiracy at everything to where, they know it's not going to go away, our curiosity of it. But if they can throw enough conspiracy to it, that means that they can discredit it. So if we don't know which one's which, then they can say, oh, you're looking at a weather balloon, whatever. And they love to do that type of stuff. I love the government. And I say that jokingly because, you look at that and you sit there and go, it is so ridiculously discredited that it's almost funny. You almost have to laugh at some of the stuff that they say to discredit stuff. It's amazing.
Do you think with this new project that Tom DeLonge has coming out that it might clarify a lot of what we are seeing in the night skies?
I'm 50-50 on that. I'm 50% as hopeful that, the big name group that he has put together, and I say big name because it seems like a lot of big names with a lot of money, will actually have the money and the resources to put something out there that proves something. Now, that being said, the big name, big money people are small change in comparison to the big money people who run things. And money talks and BS walks, as we all know. And my fear, which is the other 50%, is that it's going to be a lot of smoke and mirror because the ones who don't want anything known are just going to shell money toward it and say, well, just say this. Or just say that. You didn't really see anything. You don't really know anything. And it seems that what they've came out with already was already, from what I've seen, kind of wishy-washy. So, I don't know.
I don't know whether or not they'll have the answers or not. Like I said, we've been talking about this. This will be night number 3 that we have talked about this on our show. And I don't think we need to get into it too much. But the debate is still continuing on social media as to whether or not this is just a financial ploy to raise money, or if they're actually really concerned about going into any type of disclosure type movement. And I don't know the answer to that. I really don't know the answer to that whatsoever. I'm just as confused as a lot of people are. And, reading the experts today, guys who I call experts, in looking at their profiles on Twitter or Facebook and listening to, and reading the reactions to what they are saying, I don't think there's a lot of people actually too impressed with what's going on here.
And that's kind of the impression that I got too of a lot of it. And here's the other thing too, is that the governments like to keep us debating, as I put up in the air the little quotation marks and fingers that you can't see. And they do that. I mean, look how much we fight over everything out there. I mean, race, gender, Republican, Democrat. They have got us fighting on so much stuff that none of us seem to be able to come together on anything. This could be just another way to throw it out there to make us keep debating something while they're doing something over here. It's a sleight of hand. So there's a high probability of that. And it wasn't good. If they really are trying to do something with this group, it wasn't good how they came out. Because the way they came out and the way they were doing things made it seem very, very much like that type of thing, where we're just going to be debating this to the point that we're not watching what else they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Does that comfort you at all in knowing that, here we go? I mean, Dennis Koch, thank you for updating us on Spreaker. I mean, currently they have 673 investors at just over $321,000.
Wow.
That's not a lot of money considering. I mean, it looks like, all of us would look at this and we'd think, wow, that is a good chunk of change right there. That is a great chunk of change. But is that enough? I mean, it's nowhere close enough to even probably fill the gas tank on the damn thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
The hard part is trying to figure out where they want to go with this.
Well, yeah, and I think you hit a kind of a nail on the head there. That you and I, we look at $360,000 or something like that. $321,000. That to me, that's a lot of money. I could pay off my house and have plenty of money left over to kind of do savings and do other kinds of stuff with it if I wanted to. I could have a couple of nice cars. I could have, really nice stuff. But when you look at how much money is spent on anything that goes anywhere. I mean, heck, just look at how much money is spent on research in colleges. We're talking more in the millions of dollars than we are in the thousands of dollars. So, yeah, there's a very possibility that $321,000 is not enough money, as you say, to put gas in the proverbial tank.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the issues that I have with it is on their website, and I know I've mentioned this already before, and I'm retracting my own statements here. Well, not retracting, but retracing, my own statements here. I'm very surprised on their website that they don't have two words that I thought they would see. The acronym UFO and the word disclosure. I haven't been able to find those two words on the website. To me, that has me concerned. And especially, a lot of people are taking offense because the way they were led up to believing was that Tom DeLonge was going to come out and have some sort of disclosure happen with this dream team of government officials turned ufologists.
Well, and that was the hype. It seemed like, it was getting passed around in little blurbs here and little blurbs there, and it became this kind of motivating hype that that's what was going to happen. And then he came out with this kind of half-ass, wishy-washy thing. And it just didn't seem to go much anywhere. The fact that UFO and disclosure isn't on the website itself, and I think, what are they wanting, $300 donation per person? For the working class guy like myself, you're asking a lot out of me for something I'm sitting here going, what? I don't know about that. That's a lot you're asking of every person who's out there working a 40-hour work week, who has a curiosity of this stuff, and you can't give him something better. You can't even put UFO and disclosure on your own website. Really?
Well, and that leads to what Tripp's question is in the Spreaker chat room about if anyone has heard if Dr. Stephen Greer has his hands in DeLong's group. As far as we know, he doesn't, but from what I heard, he is praising the efforts. And when you sit there and you look at, Dr. Stephen Greer, who's taken a lot of heat over the years, especially with the amount of money that he is charging people for his courses and videos and movies or anything along those lines, it is curious as to whether or not, if Tom DeLonge and this dream team are going down that same slippery slope.
Oh, it's highly likely, And the thing of it is, and what makes you wonder why sometimes that some of these guys do this. You look at all of the people that they're putting in this dream team. There's none of them that are short on cash. They've all got big bank accounts, but yet they will go and, hey, look, here's another way to make money. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but it kind of seems like it. Are they going to hit that spot where, hey, it's $300 donation to us, and when time comes around, we're gonna put out this movie, but this is going to cost you $400, or we're putting this book out that's a $100 book. Is it all going to be just a money making thing? Maybe. It sure did. They sure did kind of come out sketchy. For somebody who put so much hype on something that was going to be disclosure, it sure did kind of, come out on a sketchy side of it. Really, really soft wishy-washy. I mean, without a better way to put it.
Well, you know what? I hope they are true to their word. I wish them well. I think the dream team he has in there can get the job done. But do you find it like I do with a lot of these guys who are coming in? I don't question their credentials, okay? Because you just don't make up stuff on your resume saying you were the head of Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works. You don't, put on your resume that you just quit 7 days ago from the Department of National Defense. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't go public with that stuff. You'll be eaten alive quite quickly. But yeah. But do you believe then that these gentlemen whom he has brought into this field are really going to say anything? Because if you're the head of Lockheed Skunk Works, or you're coming over from the CIA or the NSA or the Department of Defense, I'm pretty sure your name is on some pretty tight contracts considering the security clearance that you had. So how can you be a ufologist and still hide behind that security clearance?
Well, and there's a good question, and I don't know, to be honest. Will they say anything? It just depends if they've got the guts like Bob Lazar did. He worked for him. He had the security clearance. He came out and told everybody everything. The fact that he wasn't wiped off the earth is kind of surprising to a little bit, but I think the government looked at it as, well, if we do, then we'll just make him a martyr and everybody will definitely believe him. So whether they'll actually come out and say anything with all of these, big credentials and stuff behind them, I don't know. I have to kind of say, I don't think so. But we'll have to wait and see. Look, I just like you, I wish these guys the best of luck. I actually have hope that they'll do something. But the realist in me says it's smoke and mirrors.
Well, let me ask you this. What would you have liked to have heard during that press conference? Because they did give some stories basically saying UFOs are here. They are real. But they didn't go into depth in anything. What would you have liked to have heard?
I would have liked to have heard that we know these things are in these spots. We know these contracts were made with extraterrestrials, something of that type of sort. You know, something of substance. But we got, you know, hem-ha stories. Yeah, UFOs are real, blah, blah, blah. Nothing of substance, though. You know, I want to see, hey, you know, we know this group of people met with these extraterrestrials, and we know that this craft is in Area 51, and, you know, we know that these have been reverse engineered, and we've got some of these things. The TR-3B is most likely real. Something. But we kind of didn't get any of that.
And you know what I was hoping for is the gentleman who, and his name is not coming to me right now, so I do apologize. But the gentleman who was the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works, I believe this is one of the guys who either came after Ben Rich or shortly after Ben Rich, when Ben Rich stepped down. I wanted him to come up on that stage and say, what Ben Rich told us in 1992 or whenever it was is real. We do have the technology to get E.T. home again. Imagine how many believers we would have throwing money at this whole concept, knowing that Ben Rich just wasn't saying something snide and off the cuff at a college charity event. You know what I'm saying?
That $321,000 should be $1 million right now. That's the difference.
Exactly. That's the kind of juice I was waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to actually have some substance of something where, you know, like I said, they say that these things are real, they've seen them, they know they're there. And to say something like what he said, where it said, hey, you know, where they're, you know, we have the technology to get E.T. home, to come out and confirm that. Oh, yeah. You know, you'd have $1 million, $2 million in donations of guys and gals donating $300 at a time, because you'd have every single believer just about of ufology, of aliens, experiencers, abductees, would all be throwing money at this thing to try to get it into the open, to say, look, see the masses, do you see everybody else? We aren't crazy. You know, this stuff is really here. They've been tossing money at it left and right. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm. This leads to Craig's question. Why wouldn't they have this so-called dream team drop some crazy info or testimonials and give us a real plan, each to demonstrate what they've seen? I don't think that plan is there yet. I think what they've read and what they know is pretty much on paper. What do you think, Corey?
I don't think they really have a plan that involves anything of actual real study of what's going to happen here. Because, you know, like you said, we've got, you know, like you said, the guy from Skunk Works. He should have been able to easily come out and said, you know, and confirmed, yeah, we have the technology to get E.T. home. The realist in me says that this is a debate feature. It is literally to get us debating stuff and keeping our eyes off of something else. What that is, I don't know exactly, but I think it's a sleight of hand tactic. I really do.
I don't know if it is or not either, but the fact that we need more. As a medium, we need more. And it's funny because Grant Cameron had this piece on his Facebook page today, a big debate about what was going on. And I actually responded to that because Trevor Wozni, the angry ufologist, you may know him as, posted an article basically saying DeLong is full of crap. We've got nothing new. Everybody was waiting for disclosure. He blew it again and shoved it right in our face to try and raise money in his telethon. I'm paraphrasing here. And right. I think Wozny's article on the angry ufologist was quite accurate, to be honest. Because that's what we were all waiting for. And the thing that concerns me, and I'm curious what you think on this, because I asked Everett Thiemer this, I asked Joe Roop this, and now I'll ask you the same question. Tom DeLong gave all the information to George Knapp, as he should. George is a phenomenal reporter, and I think one of the best out there in Las Vegas. I mean, look what happened to him 25 years after blowing up the Bob Lazar story. It's still going on. He's still wanted because of one story. And my concern is, this is now day 2 since I sent in my media request to talk to Tom or someone in that group, whether or not they're going to open up to the media. And not just, the other show that runs at this specific time. Are they going to be going to other media outlets to talk about this stuff? And if they don't, that tells me there's an agenda. That tells me there's a complete agenda if they're going to be withholding information from other alternative media outlets. And I think that's dangerous because you never see Stanton Friedman not go on a show. You never see Grant Cameron not go on an alternative media show. Or Stephen Bassett. Greer, well, that's another case. You see Linda Moulton Howe go on other shows. Whitley Strieber, love him or hate him. Okay? Doesn't matter. The fact is they take the time to go on the shows. Right?
Well, look. Oh, go ahead.
And if you're going to say pick and choose your media on whom you speak to and whom you don't, that's a dangerous precedence.
Yeah, I mean, it is a dangerous precedence, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do. I would venture to say that I don't think that they're going to go on any media that is going to ask hard questions off the cuff. I think probably what will happen is that the only media outlets that they're going to hit is going to be the big ones that will ask the questions they provide. I can almost guarantee it. You probably will not get an answer back for your media request, or you'll get a no, because if they take a moment and listen to any of your shows and the questions you ask of your guests, some of them are, just the normal questions, and every once in a while it's a tough question. It's a question of, show me kind of question. And if they listen to any of that, I doubt they will even step anywhere near your show, to be honest. Still there, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
it would really surprise me if they do. I bet you they are going to keep this media embargo tight, and I think only certain outlets are going to get access to them. They've proven that so far, and to me, that is a red flag. And I hope they take it that way. We've gone through the channels. And I'm not just saying Spaced Out Radio here. This has nothing to do with me. I don't care. If they want to come on, I've sent the request. If they want to come on, great. We will make time for them. Doesn't have to be Tom DeLong. Could be anybody from his crew. But if they are dodging a lot of these media outlets and only sticking to 1 or 2 programs, and that's it, that's how we know if they are pulling the wool over our eyes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that completely. And the fact of the matter is that these guys know how skeptical most of, I'll say, our industry is. There are, people out there that follow at a heartbeat. We know that. But for the majority of us, I mean, we look back just at you posting a picture of a ghost hunt you did for charity on Facebook. Look what happened. We know how many, not quite a third of, but close of the people were heavy skeptics or debunkers. Some people said, hey, that's great. Others just kind of went, sure, cool. But, these guys know how skeptical this industry is. And the fact is that they didn't give us anything. They're dodging the hard questions at this point because as we see that they're only going for certain media outlets thus far, something is fishy in Denmark.
Well, let's hope they don't take that. Or take the Stephen Greer stance where he's asking if he's being remunerated for his interview time.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is you're probably going to get, which will be just a half-ass way to keep you to not come on your show, is they'll say, well, how many listeners do you have? They're going to go for the 500,000 or bigger kind of thing.
Oh, they very much could. They very much could. But that's still, eliminating the people who are going to invest in this. Right? You want that UFO crowd. I think $200 is very high. I think they should have, knowing that people in this field, a lot of people don't have a lot of money in this field, I think they should have probably brought that down a little bit. But, I think, even have a $50 category or a $100 category. I don't know. I don't know how it works. Maybe they had to have a minimum category, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I see a lot of things where people do donations too. There's a lot of things where they say donate whatever you can, for different types of things, even stuff in this field. I don't know. Something is fishy. I mean, these guys had to know that if they put out some kind of substance that they would get more donations that would come in because more people would be likely to believe in what they're doing, and yet they still didn't. What's that tell you? I mean, that tells you that they have information but aren't going to put it out, but they still want to run this thing somehow. I don't know. Something's just askew with the whole thing. And I can't put my exact finger on it, but there sure is a lot of little things that you can pick out and sit there and go, something's wrong with this picture, and what is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's something that we have to try and figure out on this end. And the public is stranded having to figure out on their own. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And, look, the bottom line is that the only thing that we're going to be able to do is just sit and watch. Hide and wait, as they say. And we're just going to have to see what happens. For the most of us who think that something shady's going on, we aren't going to be the ones donating, but we're going to be the ones going to keeping a real close, skeptical eye on what they're doing. At some point, if they really are being shady, something is going to pop up, and it's going to be just a glaring red stop sign. We're just going to have to wait and see if that's that thing. Now, the other side of that is we hope that they're actually going to try to do something right. We're hoping that this kind of wishy-washy come out was just that, they're just getting started in this thing. They don't know much yet, and they're going to actually bring something. But I don't know. I'm still of that mind that something's not right with this. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Well, we will soon see, because the way they are talking about advanced technology and creating and developing advanced technology, I know, for one, that wasn't something that I wanted to hear, and I'm pretty positive I'm not alone in that entire field. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, it's just something not quite right.
Well, we'll soon see. Alan Karcher in the Spreaker chat room says, the powers that be have done everything to silence those who are calling for full disclosure the loudest. In the past 3 months, Corey Good had social services at his house to take his kids. David Wilcock had his brake line cut, and then he went into hiding, and now we get this so-called dream team. I call BS. Well, I don't think you can put Corey Good and David Wilcock in this group of people. In my opinion, these guys are much more credible than the other two. You know, in seeing what these guys have been doing, and maybe I shouldn't be calling out the other two like that, you know, but they've tested the patience of a lot of people. Whereas this new group, I think they do have the credibility to have people look into their background and say, yeah, this is real. This guy has seen top secret documents, and we go from there. That's just the way I look at it. Maybe you're looking at it too.
Well, but I get what Alan's saying. You know, you look at one hand where these people like them or hate them, that have been in this industry, who may have been coming on to something, some type of information, have had really messed up things happen to them just out of the blue and for no apparent reason. And yet, there again, you have this shiny team that has all these credentials. It's worked for these different places. You know, you look how much stuff that even Bob Lazar went through, and you wonder, all right, is this dream team all of a sudden going to start having issues? Because we all know that the government doesn't want any of this stuff out there. Plausible deniability everywhere they go on everything. And, you know, if they're causing this much hassle for other people in the field who are trying to investigate and trying to find stuff, if we look at, you know, this new team and we see that, hey, they're shiny and happy and nobody's bugging them, nobody's showing up on their doorstep, nobody's giving them odd phone calls telling them some show's going to be canceled, they're going to be fired, their life's going to go away, you know, a brake line cut. You have to wonder, what are they really doing?
Well, and that all depends on how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole. Because, like I've said so many times, and I even sent out my speech at the Paracon, you know, we only know what they're going to tell us. The rest right now, there is no concrete proof. And that's the difficulty. Corey, we got about 45 seconds with you, buddy. Tell us all about S4, if you don't mind, with Eric Cooper.
S4, you know, Saturday nights, midnight, every Saturday night. And we have a great panel every time. We usually have R. Keith and Eric Markham on. And basically, we just kind of do it a little different. You know, we get a subject in there, and we sit around like a bunch of friends discussing it. And it seems like everybody likes it. So, you know, I invite everybody to come out, join us. It's Spreaker.com and SpacedOutRadio.com. And look up S4 and come join us Saturday nights at midnight when you can't get enough of it.
Corey, I want to say thank you for being on the show and joining us in hour number 3 tonight. You hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up, my friend. Also want to give a big shout-out and thank you to Will Farrar, who joined us in hours 1 and 2 talking about Mars, the Moon, secret space program, and all the anomalies in between. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to make it a lot of fun. Want to say thank you to my team for helping put this show together on a nightly basis. We're hoping to have some big news as of next week or the week after. We'll see where that goes. Fingers crossed, space travelers. But most of all, I want you to tune in this weekend. We have Spaced Out Saturdays with Dave Cruz. Tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. Then on Sunday, Little Lizzie Anglin is back with Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Sundays. SpacedOutRadio.com is where you can find both shows. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. He rocks us in and out of every single show. Don't forget, my friends, give us a follow on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. We appreciate you doing this. Appreciate you showing up, because without all of you sharing our tweets, sharing our show, telling people about it on a nightly basis, we wouldn't be growing the way we are. Because together, my friends, we own the night. We will talk to you on Monday. Thank you so much for making it an awesome week. We kick it off with Tim Doyle, UFO Seekers, Monday night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. Take us home, please. Good night.